Today we'll be looking into the errors of Swami Vivekananda, especially his Chicago speech. So this is a very sensitive topic. So if you're touchy about it, if you think you cannot handle it, please do not watch. Okay, so the disclaimer. So if you're not a rational person or is not used to this type of critiques of religion, then I will advise you to stay away from this critique. So we will be critiquing Swami Vivekananda's speech at the World Parliament of Religions. I can say that's one of the favorite historical moments for Indians, and it's very specific for Indian Hindus because that is when Vivekananda went there and spoke something about their religion. Okay, it's a moment of pride, and it is I have seen many people daily hearing that speech and feeling whatever they feel good about it. Okay, so that is understood. But this is, if you are that type of person, you should not be watching it because it's about all the errors in that, and you may not even want to know that. Okay, so you may be having a great respect that you are not open to him being wrong, okay, and or religion being wrong. So if that is the case, then please do not watch this. So with these things, let us start. So what are the key points in the speech? His key point number one is that his assertion that religious truth is universal, that all religions are but different parts to the same ultimate reality, and that each individual has the right to follow their own chosen path without fear of censure or condemnation. And this is an attack on religious exclusivity, which is part of Christianity and Islam. And at this juncture, I want to share, of course, that this is an attack on Christianity and Islam, no doubt. Second point is that the portrayal of Hinduism as a religion of tolerance, compassion, and spiritual insight. He highlighted the richness and diversity of Hindu philosophy, emphasizing that it can assimilate and accommodate a wide range of practices and beliefs and philosophies within it. And he portrayed Hinduism and interpreted Hinduism as a dynamic and progressive religion which will adapt to the times and the prevailing notions, and is not a rigid system like Christianity or Islam. And he connected Hinduism to India. So that is the next problem. Okay, that India as a spiritual, being, as a spiritual nation, and a great spiritual concept in itself, India itself, and Hinduism being the defining characteristic of that spiritual nation, a divine nation. India itself is God, something like that. Eternal India was one of his books. The next point is the call to recognized the unity of all religions. He went on to argue that beneath the surface of differences which we see, all religions are the same. Indians would have heard it throughout their lives from Hindus, from each other, from Christians mainly from Hindus and Hindus from each other. But all religions lead to God. There's no need to convert. That's the point. The point of this is of course that you don't need to convert because they are facing two converting religions, Christianity and Islam, and this is their tactic. All religions lead to the same God. So you should not ask Hindus to convert to Islam or Christianity. His vision of religious unity challenged the prevailing sectarianism of the time and offered a path towards greater understanding and cooperation among different religious communities. So that is their tactic. Vivekananda's emphasis on practical application of spiritual principles in everyday life was another noteworthy aspect of his address. He urged his listeners to embody the values of compassion, tolerance, selflessness in their interaction with others, emphasizing the importance of service to humanity as a means of realizing one's spiritual potential. And this call to action, compassion, tolerance, and selfishness, importance of service to humanity resonated with his audience in the West, inspiring them to strive for a more just and compassionate world. This is the main argument, along with this attack on the God of Christianity, and his argument that why are people born lame or blind, or why is God allowing that suffering? And then he says, therefore, that is not the right answer. So he is telling Christianity is wrong. And he points to the fact that these people are born handicapped because of their bad karma in previous births. And that is his answer. A very controversial answer indeed. And let us go on to analyze the key points. So Hinduism is Hinduism, or the Hinduism of Vivekananda, a tolerant religion. Does it have anything to do with tolerance at all? Even though the idea of tolerance is great, saying that Hinduism is a tolerant religion, looking from the outside, with all its caste discriminations and atrocities towards the lower caste, there is no way I can see Hinduism as an inherently tolerant religion. Inherently, it is an intolerant religion. But compared with Islam, it is slightly less intolerant. Okay, so that is what the point that Vivekananda is making. Compared to Islam, Hinduism is tolerant. But in itself, it is not a tolerant religion. With caste discrimination and the caste system at its core, and that is how Hinduism is practiced in India as a caste-based society, caste-based way of life. So central to the Vivekananda's portrayal of Hinduism was the emphasis on the concept of Advaita, non-dualism. He argued that at the heart of Hindu philosophy lies the realization of the essential unity of all existence. Okay, that ultimate reality is manifesting, emanating. And these are all manifestations, all the varieties are all manifestations of the one that, that which is behind the veil of what we see. This understanding of Advaita served as a foundation of Vivekananda's vision of religious unity and tolerance, suggesting that all religions ultimately point towards the same underlying truth. So is it true that all of Hinduism Advaita? No. So there is a problem because there are at least two other alternatives to Advaita, Dvaita and Vishishta Advaita. So medieval Hindu philosophy has come to the point where they have three alternatives in Hindu philosophy: Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Dvaita. But here, Vivekananda is telling those people who have not heard about Hinduism that Advaita, his philosophy, is Hinduism, and they should look at it as non-dualism. Whereas Hinduism, there is no one interpretation. There is no agreement. There was severe persecution between these three schools. There were severe animosities, enmities, debates. And it is well known about the enmity between Advaita, Saivism, and Vishishtadvaita, Vaishnavism, which was very well known in history. So even there is no appearance or presence of tolerance between these two Hindu philosophies. Okay, so much so that Ramanuja ran away to escape persecution from those who disagreed with him. So he is telling or misrepresenting non-duality as Hinduism. So that is the first error. So now we move on to factual errors. This will be a tactical thing which you found out. So one notable error in Vivekananda's speech pertained to his assertion that Hinduism is the mother of all religions. So first we see that there is problem with telling that duality is Hinduism. And next about tolerance, even though there is no such thing we see in Hinduism. Third is assertion that Hinduism is the mother of all religions. So the origins of Hinduism is a problematic topic, is complex, multifaceted, and Hinduism emerges from a synthesis of indigenous beliefs, Indian beliefs, and practices over millennia. However, to assert that it is the mother of all religions, the, it's the progenitor of all religious tradition, is an error because it overlooks the diverse origins and developments of other faiths around the world. The next most obvious error is Vivekananda's depiction of Hinduism as a religion which has always been promoting freedom and tolerance. It is worth mentioning that Hinduism there is no freedom. The religion of determinism and fatalism. And to say that Hinduism is a religion of freedom, you have to change the whole meaning of the word freedom. The imposition of orthodoxy by certain sects and the marginalization of dissenting voices, as I said before, challenges this idea of Vivekananda portraying Hinduism as a religion of liberty or free choice. Hindus have no concept of freedom. It is a Western idea, it is a foreign idea. Okay, they are afraid of freedom. They cannot accept it. Okay, and to say that Hinduism is a religion that promotes personal freedoms, rights, etc., is totally a scam. So these are the factual errors. Next, we move on to logical errors. Vivekananda's speech. First is the logical error called non sequitur. His evidence does not lead to the conclusion that Hinduism is the mother of all religions. Even if Hinduism is ancient, this claim lacks logical coherence. It is insufficient evidence and argumentation. Second is false dilemma. So he thinks that there is a dichotomy between religious exclusivism and religious unity. He is oversimplifying. There is more than two options available here. The complexities of religious diversity is not between syncretism, all religions are same, and exclusivity. There are other options like pluralism, okay, which do not claim all religions lead to the same goal. Okay? Because all religions do not even define God in the same way, let alone all religions being the same. Next logical fallacy is appeal to tradition. So Vivekananda's appeal to antiquity of Hinduism is an old religion as evidence of its superiority, cost, or truthfulness. So I also heard that this came before. It was before, therefore it's true. So that is a logical fallacy. Just because something is old does not make it true. So that is a logical fallacy which we commonly encounter Hindus employing. Next is circular reasoning. in asserting that all religions lead to the same truth. He has to prove it, but he cannot prove it because all religions define God differently. Hinduism, his own philosophy, it is impersonal Brahman, whereas in Christianity, it is personal God. But he cannot prove it, therefore, he assumes it and leads to circular reasoning. Okay, next logical fallacy is hasty generalization. Hasty generalization about the tolerance and inclusivity of Hinduism overlooks historical and contemporary instances of religious intolerance and discrimination, and such hasty generalization fails to account for the truth, and therefore there's another fallacy. Ad hominem. Vivekananda attacks other religions as barbaric, primitive, constituting an ad hominem fallacy, attacking the character or origin of belief rather than engaging its substance. False analogy. Vivekananda's comparison of Hinduism to other religious traditions may involve false analogies that obscure rather than illuminate the difference between them. So he accommodates Christianity as a second grade religion. Christianity, Islam, polytheism, all these are second level, low grade religions, whereas non dualism is the highest level of religious truth. Is that present in all religions? No. And that is why Vivekananda is wrong. He's making a lot of false analogies and even using analogy as evidence. Hindus will quite happily do. They will tell all rivers drain into the sea, therefore all paths lead to God, and that is supposed to be, analogy is supposed to be an evidence. So that's all. That is the evidence, that is argument. It's not an example that becomes an argument. So that is a false use of analogy. Begging the question, Vivekananda's assertion of the inherent superiority of Hinduism begs the question by assuming the truth of his conclusion. He has to prove that Hinduism is indeed superior to other religions. But he does not do that. He assumes it, asserts it, and gives some analogies. And this leads to the fallacy of begging the question. Without providing independent evidence or justification, these assertions lack logical validity and fail to persuade the hearers. So these are 8 logical fallacies. Already we have seen 4 or 5 factual errors. And next we move on to cognitive bias. So in cognitive bias, Vivekananda is biased, is not a fair person as we have seen. He's biased towards Hinduism. Okay, he's trying to save Hinduism from Islam and Christianity. And his bias includes confirmation bias. So his portrayal of Hinduism as a superior religion is what he believes. There's no proof for that. His assertion that Hinduism is universally valid, these are all based on confirmation bias. Next is in-group bias. This is just favoring his own religion and group. As ethnic religion, Hinduism is Indian religion, and that forms the bias of in-group bias. Therefore, he is biased towards that. Therefore, he is speaking some good things about that. He cannot criticize it. He is unable to see the truth that Hinduism is one of the most intolerant religions. Next bias is self-serving bias. Here again, he is attributing positive outcomes to the abilities and characteristics of Hinduism, whereas attributing negative outcomes to external factors and other religions. Christianity does not work. There are lame people, handicapped people. God is love. Why did he allow that? Whereas Hinduism works because of doctrine of karma and reincarnation. Okay, so that is self-serving bias. He is using these attributes positively. Whatever is there is serving the purpose of promoting it, even though it is not any good. This doctrine of karma and reincarnation as the explanation. Handicappedness is just self-serving bias. He's trying to paint it as something which is acceptable. Next is anchoring bias. Vivekananda's reliance on certain metaphors or analogies to convey his message are influenced by anchoring bias, where individuals rely too heavily on initial information. So he's starting with telling some positive things about Hinduism, and then he anchors the audience in that, telling that Hinduism is a tolerant religion, is a religion of liberty, freedom, it's the mother of all religions, is the universal religion. And he's anchoring his audience in that before attacking the other positions. With, as you can see, self-serving bias and confirmation bias, of course. So in India, at least, Vivekananda definitely generated a bandwagon effect among Hindus who are biased. And just because there is Vivekananda, they say a lot more people also have joined the bandwagon of without knowing exactly what it is about. Authority bias. As an authority figure, he exerts considerable respect and adoption of his ideas, even though they are wrong. Okay, I don't think any Hindu is able to criticize him, even though we already seen a lot of errors. It's because of authority bias. Okay, he is just respected and he is not at all criticized. Availability heuristics. Vivekananda's use of vivid imagery and compelling rhetoric exploits the availability heuristics, wherein individuals rely on readily available examples or anecdotes and making judgments or decisions by presenting Hinduism in favorable light. Okay, so he is going to, there's nobody attacking Hinduism in the Chicago Parliament of Religions, and he's going to paint a very rosy picture of Hinduism, and with that available information, without the critique, okay, without anyone pointing out his errors, he is going to sell it. Okay, and that is availability heuristic bias. Therefore, we have seen already three types of errors. The fourth type of error is epistemological errors, a little bit complicated and complex philosophy. So I'll just run through that. It includes epistemic relativism. Number two, subjective validation. Number three, appeal to mystical experience. Number four, confirmation bias. Number five, appeal to authority. And epistemic closure. And reliance of intuition. There are seven these epistemological errors. Epistemological errors, as most of you will not know, I'm not going to go into it or teach it for you. You have to learn it yourself. And there is no way he can make all those assertions about Hinduism. That's what it means. There is no way, because the way of knowledge to make the assertions is wrong. Okay? That's what it means, epistemological errors. So we have looked into factual errors, logical errors, cognitive bias, and epistemological errors. And we need to, therefore, as Christians, as truth seekers, if you are interested in truth, you should reject Vivekananda's speech at Chicago because it is full of errors. So that will be my critique. Thank you for joining. Jesus loves you. God bless you.